Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a while since we have done a training voiceover. So, a lot has happened since we've done one of these videos. So, I've competed twice and I have more shows to come up. So, in this video, towards the end, I'm going to give you a rundown of my future shows and the show I have coming up this weekend, but also just a general recap on how prep has been going from a training perspective, as well as a mindset perspective too, right? So 2 shows done, WMBF and MBFI. We took the win at both of them, got into the overall, held our own at the overall, got really good feedback from the judges on the overall. So I'm a happy man. I was anxious, of course, to do the shows because they were my first 2 shows and they were qualifiers for future shows, but also anxious to do them to see how I stacked up against other people who've been bodybuilding longer than me. And we did quite well, so quite happy with that. And now we have better opportunities coming up in the future. Over the last 2 weeks, training has been a bit different, right? Because up until the shows, we were pretty much running full volume weeks, deloads every 3rd week. And the last week was actually my first week back doing full volume in about 3 weeks, because the peak week training that I was doing, it consisted of half volume half of the week and full volume the start of the week. And there was also no squats and no deadlifts. So this is my first week squatting and deadlifting in 3 weeks. And it actually went quite well, to be honest. So I worked up to a top set of 205 in deadlifts, as well as a top set of 170 for 5 on squats, which, I'm not dissatisfied with. It's far away from the 240 I was pulling only a few weeks ago when we were in Spain, and far away from like the 205 that I was squatting for 5 when I was in Spain too, and far away from what I was doing when I was powerlifting. But given my body weight now, so I'm 78 kilos at the moment, to be able to do that level of weight after not doing those movements for so long, I'm pretty happy, because like squats and deadlift, right, they are very high skilled movements, and when you take time off them, generally you see that skill degrade quite quickly. And in substitution for them, I've been pretty much just doing like RDLs and leg press, which are similar movement patterns, but they're not the same, right? Ask anybody to do an RPE 10 on a squat versus an RPE 10 on leg press, and let me know which is harder, right? Let me know which is harder to perform. Let me know which feels harder. So because they have been removed and my training has changed up quite a bit, I have not been as engaged in training. So even today's session, so the session you're watching right now, very much a session where I was kind of going in, no real fire in the belly, as you may say, no real excitement, and training has been like that for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I think now, with the end of prep in sight, and with the level of body fat I'm at, and with the amount of shows I know I've coming up, it's been a bit harder to get kind of fired up for training, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, because training is going to be the key driver of me retaining muscle mass, as well as coming out of prep and being able to pack on more muscle mass, as well as get back to my current level of strength. But it's also really important that I'm going into the sessions with a bit of that fire in the belly, to be able to make sure that I'm training at a good intensity where the muscle is going to have a good reason to hang around. And at the moment, it's just not really there. Like, I'm going into training to tick the boxes, which is quite sad, I'm not going to lie, because training, which once was one of my favorite parts of the day, now has been almost more like something I just have to do, which is not really too exciting. Now, That's not to say that we are seeing some progressions. So on the likes of like these pull downs, for example, on the likes of my T-bar row, like a lot of single joint, high stability exercises, ones where I can like brace really well into the actual machine, I am seeing like rep progressions. Like I'm seeing like reps go up every other set, like every other week, which is progress, but it is very slow. When you're used to adding weight to the bar very frequently, when you're used to like blasting through sets and adding reps week on week on week, it's a hard one to get yourself around, because then you're kind of going into the session and you're like, oh, like, you know, this is going to be so and so, and then because you go in with that mindset, your training performance kind of follows suit. So trying my best now over the next few weeks to try get myself out of that mindset. Now, having said that, it could be a consequence of just the day today has been. For example, like today, as I'm recording this voiceover, it's definitely been one of the harder days overall of prep, from a doing stuff perspective, like just getting shit done. Like even this morning when I was trying to do my work, like my job work, I was really like procrastinating on it. Got up super early, I was awake at 5, got my posing done. Then when I went to do my work, I was just doing everything I could to put it on the long finger. And even when it came to getting out and doing my steps today, again, same idea. However, we're still getting things done. It's just taking a lot more mental effort. And to know that there is going to be 6 or 7 more weeks of this kind of variable levels of motivation, variable levels of energy, it is quite tough to kind of get my head around. But I'm trying to just keep my eye on the prize and focus on the individual efforts that I can give every single day, because at the end of the day, that's all I can really do. Now, over the last week, since NBFI, I have been on lower calories than I was obviously prior to the NBFI show, and I think my body's definitely feeling that. So because of that, like the last like week and a half, the energy has been pretty much on the floor. Like we had 4 high days off the back of the NBFI show, and then it's pretty much just been low days since, and my body is definitely giving me feedback that, you know, you want to slow down, you want to stop moving. I'm getting that metabolic adaptation where you are looking to do the least amount of effort possible, and you could probably see that by how I loaded that T-bar row earlier, which I would never ever load a T-bar row like that in the off season. I've actually found myself loading bars and loading machines with like odd plates, because I'm just going towards whatever is closest to me, and that's a real sign that, like, you know, you're getting to the depths of prep and the depths of like low energy. And look, it's just something that I have to put up at the moment, because the goal is the goal and it's not going anywhere for the time being. And, you know, I know for a fact that I'm putting my best effort in most days, even if some of those days that best effort is a little bit slower and a little bit harder to act on. But at the end of the day, when I look back next year, 6 months time, you know, I will definitely be able to say that this entire process and the entire, like, you know, my entire application of the process has been worth it, you know. There's nothing worse that I could think about than looking back, like, at the end of this prep and be like, fuck, I really could have done a little bit better there, you know. So that's kind of the mindset I have to have going forward. So this is the tired looking physique at 4 days out. I'm feeling quite flat. I'm looking quite flat. I'm looking pale, especially after having the competition tan on me for so long. And yeah, the way you can kind of distinguish the flatness in me now is I am quite lean, right? But I don't look as lean, if you get me. So the lines that you're seeing, they don't pop as much. So the actual skin is kind of not getting pressed as close to the muscle belly as it usually would when it's a little bit fuller in carbs. And that actually makes me look less lean. So over the course of the next video, which you will see where I start to fill up and when I start to peak, you'll start to see that I look a lot leaner, even though my body fat is not really kind of changing that much. But look, you need to get flat to lose the fat, and that's what we're going with. So Yeah, it's been a tough 2 weeks. They have said that the time between shows is usually the toughest, and I'm definitely starting to feel that because with the initial two shows, the motivation was there. It was really really high. Okay, but now with the kind of longer stint ahead of me and more shows, I'm definitely starting to feeling like my motivation is definitely a lot more variable, and that's kind of reflecting obviously in the day-to-day practices which I mentioned earlier. But nonetheless, we still have ways to go, so we're going to keep our head down. We're going to keep putting our best foot forward every single day, and obviously the support I get from everybody else, it does help. Like, while intrinsic motivation is key for long-term success, it does help when you have people getting behind you. And like, in a way, I feel like I'm not only trying to keep myself proud and not let myself down, I'm trying to make sure that I keep the people who are watching this series proud and don't let them down. So yeah, it's been a journey so far, but it's only going to continue. And now we are going to get into the peak week update. What is up, people? So it's been a while. So you just seen some training footage there from 4 days out. So yeah, what is the story with like the next few weeks? So this weekend we are competing again. We're going to compete in Classic Physique in PCA. So PCA is an untested show. So we're going to be going up against lads who could potentially be using some assistance, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how I compare as a natty little fuck. But one of the reasons I'm doing it is like Emma is going to be doing that show as well in figure. So I decided to do it because, I'm going to get a little bit more stage time. But it is also kind of serving as a way for me to experience a new division. And initially we had that show planned, but we weren't really too sure if the WNBF and NBFI was going to go to plan. So both of those shows went to plan. So now we have an extension of the competition season. So with the WNBF and NBFI, they were essentially qualifier events for future events. So with WNBF, the qualifier was for Worlds. So Worlds is in LA in November. Then with the likes of the NBFI, that was a qualifier for the UK DFBA finals, which are on the 16th in England, and as well with Europeans, which are in Budapest in Hungary at the end of October. Now, with the Europeans, that is also a qualifier for the Natural Olympia, which is actually the weekend before WNBF Worlds. But for that show, I need to place top 6 at Europeans. Will that happen? I don't really have any expectations, okay? So with the likes of the WNBF and NBFI, my kind of main goal was to qualify for these events. Now, going into more competitive environments like the UK DFBA, like Euros, like Worlds, I have no expectations, which comes with that a little bit less stress. So I was quite stressed coming into WNBF and NBFI. One, because they were my first 2 shows. Second, because I knew that if I did not do well at them, that my season would be over, right? Apart from this PCA show that's on at the weekend. But they're qualified for it, so now we can plan ahead. And that means now, over the course of the next 6 weeks or over the next 7 weeks, I should have PCA this weekend, UK DFBA the following weekend. At the end of the month, on the 29th, is Euros. Then potentially 2 weeks after that is the Natural Olympia in Las Vegas. And then after that is WNBF Worlds. So a lot of competitions, right? And one of the reasons I suppose I want to do as many shows as possible is because I'm probably not going to do a prep for another 3 to 4 years. So I want to get in as much experience as I can, as much stage time. And I want to just, see my kind of first ever season without having done a specific bodybuilding prep prior to it. Like, I've come from a powerlifting background. Like, this is a whole kind of series, like, Powerlifter To Bodybuilder. So I wanted to see how I would do coming from a powerlifting background, going into bodybuilding, and how I would stand up against like the best of the best, right? Because when I go to Worlds, when I go to UK, when I go to Euros, I'm going to be going up against best natural bodybuilders like on the planet, the best amateur ones at least. So from there, that's going to give me good insight as to where my kind of potential lies within this sport, because powerlifting is something I love and I'm definitely going to go back to it. But depending on how these next shows go, I could potentially see myself doing more of a bodybuilding focused off season in the new year. Now that is to be seen. Okay, so I haven't made my mind up completely on that, but that is essentially my kind of thought process at the moment, because I am quite curious. with a bodybuilding coach, how far could I push this? Could I get to the stage where I get a pro card, which would be really, really cool, right? And it would be definitely something that I would like to achieve at some point. Is the time to try put my head down and focus on it now the time? I don't know, but it's definitely in the back of my mind. So we're going to see how these next few shows go. Again, especially for this weekend with PCA, I have no expectations. Because I'm going up against people who are assisted, they're probably going to have 10 to 15 kilos of muscle mass on me potentially. So I could not place at all, which, at the end of the day, I don't really mind because it's just more stage time. And if I can get more stage time, that's going to prepare me a little bit more for UK the following week, then so be it. And it'll prepare me for the future shows coming up. So I had the plan up here ahead of me, so you'll see the timeline, which will have been on screen. But we are 4 days out now from PCA, so what is the crack with the peak for that? So I'm going to throw it up on the screen and I have it now in front of me. So with the peak for this competition, so it is Tuesday today, and I competed in NBFI the previous weekend. So the previous weekend with the NBFI, I had my high days on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday ended up being high days too, just around the show. I had an untracked day. Weight dropped down to the low 78s, which is the lowest body weight I've been in a long time. And I'm definitely getting to the stage where I'm extremely much leaner than I've ever been before, as well as more muscular, which is obviously the goal. You'd hope that is the case. But 16 kilos down since the start of prep, right? That's crazy. So big drops in body weight. And since last Monday, I've essentially been running low days. So my low days at the moment are coming to around just above 2,550. So I've been running that since last Tuesday, and I definitely am feeling quite flat and depleted, and you will see that from my training footage. And even in sessions, I'm not looking good. I'm looking very, very, I'm looking obviously muscular, but I don't feel as muscular as I truly am because I'm so depleted in terms of glycogen. But that's all going to change over the next few days. So the plan for this peak is I'm doing one more low day today, and then over the next 3 days we are going to be doing 3 high days. So one day of 520 carb, the following day is going to be 470 carb, then the following day after that is going to be 520 again. So 3 high days leading into this show, because with the last 2 peaks, so the first peak I ran 2 high days, and the previous peak to that, so with the NBFI show, I did 1 very high day and 1 of the lower carb days, but slightly higher fat. And on both of those shows and both of those occasions, after 3 high days, I looked even better. So we're trying that out for this show. So we're seeing if off the back of a good few low days and 3 high days, how I look on Saturday morning. And now thankfully the actual show itself is at an earlier time, so I'm going to be on stage a little bit earlier, so I've got less time to actually fuck up the day, and I can essentially wake up, have my first meal and potentially get on stage. But then if I win my class, which is a big if, because again I'm going up against people who are on the sauce and who are going to be much bigger than me, the overalls are in the evening time, which is going to be a little bit more tricky, but that is going to be kind of sorted out over the course of the week. So that essentially is what the plan is for the next few days. So I'm going to be running 3 high days from tomorrow. Then on show day, it's going to be similar kind of schedule to how we ran with the MBFI and WMBF in terms of food intake, but it will be kind of scaled back a little bit because of the time that I'll be on stage. And that is pretty much the way it is planned out in terms of nutrition. So I'm going to wrap up this video here because I do intend to vlog over the next few days and have a similar video coming out the same way I had for MBFI, documented the last few days of the peak as well as the show day. But hopefully that gives you a good update as to where we are at the moment in terms of plans going forward for the next few weeks and in terms of what to plan for this peak. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting to actually see how I look doing the classic poses, and when I am that little bit lighter at 78 kilos but a little bit more full, and obviously with the tan, because the tan is gone and it's just not really a great look. Definitely I have lost that Spanish tan. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Gonna wrap up this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this was somewhat useful or somewhat interesting. So yeah, I'll catch you in the next few days when it is time to get juicy and get classic. Good luck, talk to you soon.